Hi, I'm Jackie from Vegan FTA, and today I'd like to share my story of how I became an animal rights activist with the help of a very special friend a long time ago. She still means the world to me, and I still fight for her and others like her every single day. It was 1992 when I arrived in my newly adopted homeland of New Zealand, and it probably won't surprise you to learn that it wasn't very long before I ended up on a dairy farm. It was one afternoon in spring, and I wandered down to the cowshed to see what everybody else was doing. It was milking time. It was also calving season. And while the cows were being milked, there was this tiny, perfect calf, a little caramel coloured jersey, sitting in the middle of the concrete all by herself. I was waiting for the farm owner to come by because he was the one that fed the calves, and I was hoping that he would let me feed her. So when I finally saw him approach, I said, "Oh, can I please feed her? Are you going to feed this one?" I was expecting him to come back soon with a bottle of warm milk or something to give her. Instead, he said, "Nah, not going to worry about that one. It's too light. I'm going to knock her over the head after milking." I said, "What do you mean, knock her over the head?" As I found out, what it meant was he was actually going to bludgeon her to death over the head with a heavy metal pipe. As you can imagine, I was horrified, but I was also confused. There was nothing wrong with this calf. She was so perfect. She was tiny, she was beautiful, these big, beautiful eyes. I'd never seen anything so perfect. It just blew me away that he was thinking about killing her. But as the problem was, I was soon to find out, was that she was so small that she wasn't even worth putting on the slaughterhouse truck. She was not big enough to be called a bobby calf truck. Bobby calves are sent to slaughter in New Zealand when they're about 4 days old, and they're considered waste products of the dairy industry. Usually born male, but not always. In Suki's case, she was female, but she was so light that she wasn't even worth the farmer paying for milk to feed her to get her to be big enough to put on the truck to go to slaughter. What a great way to enter the world, huh? Anyway, as you can imagine, I was just gobsmacked. I was horrified, and I'd just never seen anyone so perfect and beautiful. There was no way that I was going to let her be hit on the head by anyone or anything. So I said, please, look, can I buy her from you? You know, you can imagine what the farmer thought. He just thought, oh, soft-hearted blimmin' English woman, you know, she doesn't know anything, silly woman. But I begged him, and he said, okay, in the end, well, you can pay me $30 for her. And so I did. I gave him $30 very willingly, and I took her home and I called her Suki. Ironically enough, I had to feed her milk powder, even though there was gallons and gallons and gallons of milk down at the cowshed. But anyway, Suki became mine, and she soon became my best friend. We went everywhere together. I remember there were many long sunny afternoons where I would sit reading with her out in the fields, propped up against her while I was reading a book. And I remember she was about 2 months old. She became very strong, very independent. She was a real character. And she was about 8 weeks old when the farm owner came and saw her again one afternoon. He couldn't believe the difference in this calf that he was going to bludgeon to death, and he was so impressed with her sleek coat, and she was just so strong and sturdy. He asked if he could buy her back from me. No way. Can you imagine? There was no way I was letting him buy her back, or anybody else. So she stayed with me, and rather than being bludgeoned on the head at just 1 day old, she got to live until 10 years old, and she died of natural causes. I found her one morning under a tree. The thing is, it's been 30 years now since Suki was born. But the same thing is still happening. There are still calves that are being bludgeoned over the head when they're not big enough to go on the slaughterhouse truck. There are still 1.9 million baby calves being slaughtered in New Zealand every year, and also around the world in other countries as well. We're not the only country that has bobby calves. This is still happening. It's still wrong. It's still barbaric. And, you know, I'm pretty sure that if most consumers knew that for them to have milk in their coffee or cereal, you know, milk on their cereal, I'm sure if they knew that for them, a mother had to give birth and her calf had to be taken away and killed as a newborn, I'm sure if they knew that, they really wouldn't want a part of dairy in their coffee. They wouldn't want cheese. They wouldn't, you know, why would you want to be part of that? But the thing is, this is still happening 30 years later after Suki was born. And so that's why I fight for her. I fight for every calf that was born before her and slaughtered. I fight for every calf that has been born since and slaughtered. I fight for all the mothers that are being exploited in the dairy industry. I'm fighting for all the mothers like Suki's mother who had her calf taken away. And I will never stop until it stops. So if you've been watching this, thank you so much. If you're vegan, thank you so much for being vegan. And if you're not yet, perhaps please think of animals like Suki and her mum and all of those baby calves, all of those 2 million baby calves that are being slaughtered every year so people can have milk in their coffee. Thanks for listening.